We good? Hey everybody, we are gonna get everyone seated. Hey y'all, if everyone can come get seated. If you want to have a drink, we have some drinks over here. Welcome. Come on in, have a seat. Sure, yeah. Yeah, or if you want to sit down, yeah. Hey guys, we're going to get seated if you don't mind coming in. There are drinks here in the cooler. There's cannabis drinks, and we have some non-alcoholic drinks up here on the bar as well. If you have a free seat next to you, maybe squeeze in, so there's just a few openings. And again, if anyone needs to get a drink, they're up here. Bathrooms are in the far corner over here. What's that? We don't have any extra chairs, but if you guys want to come sit in the front, you can. We also have these side tables that we can move in. Yeah, we can bring in a few more. I think there's still some, so, but yeah, if we want to bring in some extras. Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, welcome everybody here tonight. Excited that you're all here. My name is Caitlin Riley, and I'm the director of the Psychedelic Society of Texas. Who here is new to PSYT, or the Psychedelic Society of Texas? If any of you guys, okay, great. So a few of you, it's your first time at one of our events. We, just so you know, I'll tell you a little bit about ourselves. We are an all-volunteer-run organization, and we have chapters in Austin, Houston, San Antonio, and Dallas. And the mission of the organization is to nurture community conversations about psychedelics and their transformative power. So the goal is just to create safe spaces where we can come together and have community building and harm reduction and education. So we have a lot of different types of events, and this is just one of them, an example of one of them. So we have monthly events. And we have integration circles, and then on top of that, we usually have one educational event that's sort of an educational/social event. So, what else do I want to share with you? Really, the point of our group is to be a sort of a first stomping ground for people to kind of learn about psychedelics, or for those who are knee-deep in it already to kind of like find the others, find their people. So really excited that you're here, and if you ever have ideas of things you want to share, workshops, any sort of different, really an event or a workshop, or if you want to just volunteer, please reach out. We'll get to a few of the upcoming events in a second, but I just wanted to share a little bit about that. So some of the upcoming things that we've got going on, where's Alex? Okay, so I'll just share two things and I'll let him speak about this. So. We've got an integration circle June 23rd, and that's we have that once a month. You can come and share your experience and process it and reflect and listen. And then June 17th, we're doing a talk about sacred animal medicines, so venoms, combo, bufo, snake venom, by someone who is a leader in this field from Detroit. So that's going to be a pretty fascinating conversation, and he's going to be in town for that. And July 9th, a few of our volunteers will be organizing a panel about ketamine, so Ketamine 101 panel. And then next weekend, we've got the Texas Mushroom Conference. So Alex, if you want to come up just for a second and share a little bit about that.
And there are some chairs up here, too.
Cool. Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. My name is Alex Garcia. For those of you I haven't met, it's great to meet you from here. I look forward to meeting you personally when the time comes. Yeah, Caitlin just wanted me to come up and give a really quick, warm invitation to a very cool event happening 9 days from today, next Sunday, May 26th in the afternoon. It'll be an all-day event called the Second Annual Texas Mushroom Conference. It's a really cool event. It's very community-oriented. A lot of people ask me about the event, and what I always tell them, it's basically like Fantastic Fungi was a huge all-day conference. The documentary film, if you know the film, it's pretty much exactly like that, but it goes all day, and yeah, it'll be a really cool event. I really hope to see you there.
UT.
It's at UT, yes. The event, I think it's like $35 is the cheapest ticket, and you get a ton for that $35. Yeah, we need a. Sorry? Yeah, so for those of you who haven't heard of this documentary, by the way, it's pretty popular in the world of psychedelics. Fantastic Fungi. It's all about mycology. It's all about mushrooms, but there's very much a psychedelic kind of like what's the word? There's kind of like an undercurrent. Yes, thank you. There's an undercurrent of just psychonauticism and psychedelics, and it's really cool. But it's very mushroom focused. So, yeah, we need a few more volunteers, but I'm kind of already extending the 2 minutes that I was given here, so I'll wrap it up. Yeah, we need a few more volunteers. If you'd love to volunteer and represent PsyTexas, come find me after the talk. And yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks, Alex. And on our website, you'll find a link to buy tickets, so at PsyTexas.com. So just go there. So a few other things, just so you know, we say that spiel all the time, but this is not a place to tap shoulders and buy mushrooms tonight. If you want to happen, do that. Find someone later and do that after hours or, tomorrow. But this is just a safe space for us to come together and be in community, and we want to be mindful of that. And what else? Anything else I can think of? I mentioned the events that we've got going on, and I just really want to thank Juan and Rosemary, who are hosting us tonight. They're going to come up in a second and share a little bit more about the exhibit that you guys will be witnessing tonight. It's two of the artists are in this exhibit, so really grateful for them, and they can share a little bit more about that. And I'm grateful for all of these wonderful artists and community leaders here. Mary is going to help introduce them in a second, but Melanie, Jag, Alex, and Mary, really appreciate you guys being here. And I think that's what's really fascinating about psychedelics is there's intersections with all parts of our lives. It's a holistic way and approach to have conversations and think about life and discuss life and humanity. So that's what we'll be doing tonight. So without further ado, Juan and Rosemary.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I'm Juan Villegas. I'm the programming director here at ArtistCo. We're a 501c nonprofit artist collective. So you see all the studios upstairs and down here. So we all support the arts here in Austin. We have events, exhibits, workshops. This exhibit right now is called Ethereal Reveries, Women of Visionary Art. And we have, I think, some of the best visionary art in the United States here in this building. So I couldn't think of a better exhibit to have this conversation at, so I'm really looking forward to it. We co-curated this exhibit with Melanie. She's one of the artists here in the panel. So, yeah.
You said everything, but thank you everybody for being here. If you have any questions about the artwork, I'm happy to answer questions the best I can, so thank you.
Thank you, Juan and Rosemary. It's a particular delight of mine personally to be here doing this with you for a couple of reasons. One is that I officiated their wedding several years ago, so this is a fun reconnection. And also the next art exhibit here in this space is one that I'm curating with the Center for Shamanic Education. So we'll be featuring art from indigenous communities in Mexico, Colombia, and Peru. So that opening is June 7th, and if you're not already on the ArtEsco mailing list, then please go ahead and join that, or just show up in the evening of June 7th, because it will be a beautiful exhibit with fun things happening. So I'm going to briefly introduce myself, share a little bit more about my background, and then each of the artists will be introducing their own selves and sharing a little bit through the lens of this context of the psychedelic. So, Mary Olivar, I work with the Center for Shamanic Education, and we fund projects. We're a nonprofit, a 501c3 that's been established for over 15 years, and we fund projects with indigenous communities that are ideated and directed by those communities themselves that perpetuate and continue their spiritual traditions. So that's their rituals, the ceremonies, the elder wisdom, and ensuring that those very important things, those what I see as the unsevered taproots of our collective human family tree, our connection to the earth and to our original wisdom as humans, continue to be tended in a way that really allows them to be protected and continue to grow. So again, come back June 7th for more of that in a visual frame, but it's work I love to talk about, so you're welcome to grab me afterwards if you want to hear more, and you can find out more on shamaniceducation.org. So it's been a delight of mine, especially through the lens of working with indigenous communities and their relationship with altered states and with plant medicines, to see the way art in those communities has been a vehicle for physically manifesting the spiritual. So as you each introduce yourselves, I invite you to perhaps let that context frame how you're stepping into this conversation, how your work as an artist has evolved as your own awareness, consciousness, and spiritual being has also come into being. And Alex, we'll start with you.
Okay, great.
You've got it.
Do I get, is this on?
Yeah.
Alex Ruiz. If you were to ask me, 30 years ago, what your plans and visions were, it was to continue drawing Homer Simpson every day, because that's what I was doing as a 19-year-old. I didn't know I would get to the level of visionary artist, and who here has, what's that thing you go through where you don't feel that you belong? Imposter syndrome, that's the one. It's interesting how that comes up in my life. So coming from a Simpsons animator to now, and I do artwork for Joe Dispenza and Burning Man and Aubrey Marcus and in the healing community, right? And how medicine has drastically shifted what I create, what I physically create. And it's still a huge mystery to me. I don't know what I'm doing. I know the hows in how to create things, and a lot of it's practice. People see my work and they're like, I'm not an artist, there's no way I can get to your level. Oh, the psychedelics must have really helped you, right? All these things. It's like a lot of it was the practice and my love for doing it. So the medicine really helped engage and ignite the passion, right? And there is a bit of, I don't want to say cheat code in the medicine. Some of these medicines really help people create better art. I'm not saying go do psychedelics to create better art, but I'm saying that's what happened for me. So it's an ongoing journey. It's an ongoing quest to see how these different medicines are going to impact my next series of artwork. So each medicine has a different visual signature, LSD versus psilocybin. They have different patterns and different lattices that allow for their language to be spoken. They're languages, right? And nature is also a language, and I find that I'm responding back to nature through nature's language to me. I mean, I can even see it in the wood grain and the floor and patterns and shells and leaves and everything out there, and I see it through all of you. And so it's an ever-going quest, and glad to be part of it, and I think I answered some of them.
It's beautiful, thank you. Lots of rich topics being shared in there, which we'll come back to as well. And Jag, we'd love to hear from you a little bit about you and how you got here today.
I don't know how I got here, through traffic in a car, light speed. My name is Jag Wired Art. I have some pieces here in the gallery. Thank you, Melanie and Artesco. So my journey with psychedelics actually was while I was dealing with a lot of tremendous depression and grief. I had a really dear friend pass away at 15, and at that time I was like, oh, we're indestructible, right? We have so much left in our life, but seeing what she went through and then ultimately passing away, I couldn't process it, and I didn't know how to talk about it. So my very first experience with psychedelics was with mushrooms, and it kind of like gave me the okay to shed all of that weight that I had, and it really started like letting me open up and be more true, I guess it would be the word, to myself and to my purpose. And I started really getting back into art again. I was actually encouraged by Andrew Gonzalez. I don't know if any of you are familiar with his work, but I met him by chance, and he saw this really terrible sketch I was doing on the back of a receipt, and he's like, you should keep doing it. And that really helped me to start getting back into art where I'd fell out of it. Where psychedelics play into my art is I am really much attached to nature and sacred medicines, traditional medicines from indigenous communities. Those are the things that I've always been connected to. I grew up around people who grew up in tribes, and so a lot of their culture influenced a lot of my art, and I've spent time researching and studying and just paying homage to this aspect and even into my culture. I was born in the Philippines, and learning about my own indigenous roots was really interesting to incorporate as well into my art, because it's not really as mainstream, but it taught me through that to honor myself, honor this healing process that a lot of us are going through. And that's something that I've noticed every time I paint. I'll have conversations with people going through some aspect of their healing journey or some aspect of like just releasing whatever baggage they have. It even became more prominent with the 2020 with all the shutdown, and meeting more people at festivals and stuff that were just dealing with a tremendous amount of loss and how to reprocess that. And so I take a lot of this information that I'm given in the spiritual context. I really think that these medicines, these plant medicines, are very sacred. They open us up to some other place. I can't really give it a name because I don't think there's a name good enough to really say what that is. But anytime I paint, I always call it time traveling because I don't know. I'm like, oh, it's 3 hours already. The birds are singing outside. I should be going to bed now. But it like opens up this connection that I'm grateful for, and sometimes I just have no real words for. But yeah, I don't know what else to say.
You're touching on a topic that I feel like we're going to be potentially navigating throughout this conversation, because so much of what we're discussing is in the space beyond articulation, yet we're tasking ourselves with having a conversation about it. So we'll do our best, and thank you so much for sharing, Jag. Melanie, tell us about yourself.
I'm Melanie Farris. I was introduced to psychedelics very profoundly with my first experience being DMT, and I was like, well, I'm willing to try some other things after that. And after a few really big LSD trips, art found me, specifically sacred geometry, and I realized I didn't have to know how to draw or paint realism in order to be an artist. I was able to take a compass and a ruler and create images that connected deep within me, and I was able to process all of those experiences as I was shedding my old self. And art really found me. It's been a therapy for me, and it's very much a huge part of my life now. So I'm very thankful for that.
And Melanie, I think something that I think stands out for you is it sounds like you did not pick up your artist tools until after your first psychedelic journey.
Correct.
Whereas
Yes.
both of you were already practicing artists who wove it into it. So throughout these different routes to where you are now, I'm hearing that psychedelics has been a part of the healing journey personally. It's been a part of the visual inspiration, perhaps how you're experiencing dimension and color and relationship to the physical form and also to math itself. So lots of different directions we can go, and I'm happy to make this conversational. Like, we can move down here, but also if there's something that feels really rich that you want to expand on and you don't have a mic, feel free to grab it or put it to your mouth. But something that I invite you to speak into is in those different aspects of the way that psychedelics and altered states have affected your work today. What is feeling the most rich for you? What is something that you really want to speak into with the work that's happening today, and how it has been impacted by psychedelics and how it continues to evolve?
Okay, I'll speak on that.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, the difference between psychedelic work and non-psychedelic work. The medicine has inspired me to create certain visuals that really appeal to the psychedelic world, and then you have the worlds of the non-medicine use, which are equally as important, such as Joe Dispenza. He's like, you can get to these states through breath alone. He's like, the medicine is great. If it helps you, great. But you don't have to use that. So again, well, I play in both worlds, and to be able to create psychedelic artwork even without the medicine, like, that is still possible. And I think it's important for people to know you don't have to take anything in order to create really beautiful, transcendent, ethereal, beautiful artwork. But having said that, with the medicine, and actually creating while using the medicine is a fucking amazing experience. I'm just throwing it out there. And I've created much of my work. Yeah, right? And sometimes it becomes a very dreamlike scenario, and you come out of it and you're like, oh my God, I created that in that situation. It's much like a cathartic experience. If you put a blindfold on and start getting art supplies and moving them around, you take it off, and you're like, well, I didn't intend to create a lot of this, but now I'm seeing some beautiful things that I could start to riff off of, right? So you're playing with nature, you're playing with God, whatever you want to call it, right? And you're able to, again, create your own style through this experience. So, and it's a never-ending, infinite game. So that's what I love about, the medicine, and it's just going to keep going. And I'm excited where it's going to go in my own work. So yeah, I'm like a kid in a candy store, with like thinking about what is possible. So. Yeah.
Woohoo!
Yeah, exactly.
How about you guys?
I think the flow state itself, psychedelics or not, is its own spiritual experience. And you kind of get into this meditative trance while I'm creating, and like Jag said, I step back 3 hours later and I'm like, where did that come from? It almost feels like you're channeling something bigger than yourself, or maybe it's your higher self, I don't really know, but magical things can happen whenever you get into that flow state, and it's a bit of a spiritual / psychedelic experience on its own.
I think of it like, I don't know if some of y'all are familiar with Maria Sabina. She used to say that the mushrooms are like children, and that they're sacred children. They'll be at play, and I was like, that's kind of what we get to do, is really just play, and we get to just kind of let loose. And I think that's something with psychedelics, not just the visual part of it, but it's that feeling that you get, like this overwhelming sensation of emotion and feeling and gratitude for being present. And with the art, it just helps to ground those visions in a way, or to ground those experiences, and to share that. And to what I've noticed is people will come to me and be like, oh, I've seen that, or I've experienced that, or I've felt that. And that, to me, is just really, it shows how connected we are even further. I mean, with it or without it, there is something within us that helps that connects us a lot better or through these visuals, but there's also that emotional cortex that is just, it's hard to put into words the amount of times, like, I don't know if it's true for y'all, but every time I have somebody come up to me, they get really emotional, and I share something really deep and profound, I'm like really grateful for it, because I'm like, I don't know why you're opening to me, but I appreciate that, and I honor that, and I take those stories or those teachings or those lessons and incorporate them into my work and incorporate them into my own practice, because if they're willing to share so openly with me, I have to be willing to share that back and be vulnerable into sharing that as well.
Oh, no, I was just saying thank you. Thank you for saying that. We're all speaking the same language up here.
Yeah. And what's really coming in for me is the reminder that art in itself, creating art, is a spiritual act. The act of creation is a spiritual act. The act of expression is a spiritual act. And so what I'm hearing is the journey, whether it's through psychedelics, altered space, or altered states, or just creating space, it's opening up the doors to allow for the spiritual to be manifested into form through brush and other mediums there. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I'll do ceremony. Like I worked on this one series for 2.5 years. I just started showing it in San Antonio. And I always kind of do a ceremony with the work just to kind of like tie it all together and to kind of understand what I'm doing, because it's time. So much time has passed between each piece, and each meaning is different for each piece. And then trying to tie it all together. So I have these really personal ceremonies with these pieces, because it's so much more than just, oh, it's art. There's this thing here. There's this visual experience here. It's so much deeper, and I have to understand myself a little bit better. With each piece, I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that about myself. Oh, there's this thing I still need to work on. Like, that's really bad. I gotta work back. Or like, a really like deep reflection type stuff, or reflection on our communities and our society. Because I think the one thing I noticed coming out of my depression and my anxiety is to see that a lot of people are still dealing with it. They don't have any outlet. And things like this help. I think it just helps break down that wall so much easier. And, other people, they don't need that. They just... I get it. I'll get it. No.
God, is that you?
But yeah, that's...
The phrase coming to mind as you speak is psychedelic art therapy, which sounds like a lot of fun. Melanie, did you have more to add to that? I don't think so. Okay. Well, so there's been a few specific substances, sacraments, medicines, different modes of ceremony and accessing these altered states mentioned. And I'm wondering if any of you would be interested in sharing some of the specifics. Like Alex, you referred to different substances creating different visual fields and certainly different vibrations, which those of us who have experienced them can also speak to. But I'd love for you to put it in the framework of the art experience, the visual experience, and what these different kinds of altered states, how they're coming through for you in your art or visually.
Great question. And again, the different medicines have different visual signature patterns that can come through and can help influence the work. It's interesting, we were talking about ketamine today and how that has no, at least for me, no visual signature. It's very dimensional. It's like an M.C. Escher drawing, if you're familiar with his work. You have stairs going up and people standing on that wall, and it's just, there's nothing to hold on to, which makes it very difficult to communicate visually, but I'm always trying to do that. But for instance, I had a peyote experience, in which case certain phrases kept coming up to me through the experience, and it enhanced words for me. And then I came up with a name for what I thought would be a really cool series, and I called it Delicate Delirium. I created 26 pieces of artwork, one for each letter of the alphabet, and I'm still in the process of showing that. But that was like through peyote, right? And that message was not so much a visual signature imprint, but more of a conversation. Again, these are languages and they're speaking back, and if we don't integrate it, I think that's where a lot of trouble comes. You know, Carl Jung said about psychedelics, beware of unearned wisdom. And that's so important because I see many people take medicine over medicine and they don't integrate it. And they feel this sense of wisdom that is not truly embodied and integrated, and it really causes havoc in their lives. So it's important to integrate, whether it's writing or art or dance or any kind of creative outlet, to integrate our medicine experiences into our reality so we embody them, and then we can go on to another ceremony.
I would love to pose this question to both of you as well that that Alex just addressed, but before that, I would love to, if you can speak to people who are thinking of art as a tool for integration but may not consider themselves artists. Especially you, Melanie, may have a good take on this. Where can they start feeling to get over that idea that they have to be product-oriented or feel to be an artist, to use art as a tool for integration? Like, I'd love for you to offer the audience some intros for that.
I think it's best to just get in there and play. Throw some paint around, find your favorite colors, just do something fun. It doesn't have to be serious whenever you first get in there. Whatever you're drawn to, if you're really drawn to flowers, try and paint a flower. It doesn't have to be perfect. Practice makes progress. It is really just about getting in there and having fun to start out with, and if you enjoy it, then it'll keep calling to you, and you just get back in there and keep just following your intuition and your heart and whatever is calling to you visually. And you know, for me specifically, it was geometry. So I just started doing a lot of research and reading and learning about sacred geometry art and mandalas, and just started there, and it just grew and grew and grew, and now it's something I need. So I like to encourage anyone to get out there and do it. It's really fun, even if it's something like crochet. I mean, whatever's calling to you.
So how do you I can look at each of your artworks and see how you've taken the inspiration of the altered state experience and brought it into physical manifestation through your work. Is there a specific way that you would recommend to someone who's wanting to do art as a way to integrate their psychedelic experience? Like, where would they start? And for you, it sounds like it started with the visuals. Jag, from your work, I get a physical embodiment sensation along with the visuals. And Alex, I think you probably have many ways you're integrating it, but some of them being even just phrases that are then inspiring your work.
Absolutely. Okay. And there's a preparedness to it all. It's like when you're going through any kind of medicine experience, even ceremony, having the paper there or the art supplies there, there's nothing wrong with that. And again, coming out of that, you may have made a total fucking mess, which is great. That's what kids do, and psychedelics help us get back into that childlike state of awe and wonder. And when you're in that state, you want to create. At least I do, naturally. So having the supplies ready, it's a very practical thing, and then having your setup for the next day, the intention. Tomorrow I'm going to at least write about my experience, if not draw about it or create something. It's much like dream journaling, capturing a dream after the fact. You got to do it quickly, and sometimes even during. You wake up in the middle of a dream and you record an audio journal right away just to get the gist of it, because it can lend some insight into your day-to-day life. And so just be ready with your art supplies is the theme.
I agree with the writing. There are times where I'll have like my sketchbook next to me and I'll write something before my hand does not want to work anymore. But having something that is with you, like that can document what you were feeling or what you're experiencing, is one way. Like what Melanie said, just to kind of get in there and play and push things around. If you're not doing psychedelics, I always recommend like meditating. Set a space where you can just kind of get rid of your whole day, essentially. Like sit, meditate, shake off your day, especially since we're like either we're working all day or we're running into things that that have been really stressful on us to start painting after that. There's just no, like, even for a lot of us artists, I can speak for myself especially, like if I'm really stressed out, I don't want to paint. I don't want to like put those things together, but I'll write something down and I'll come back to visit it, and then just integrate those things. As far as my painting style, usually I'll get a lot of messages, like hey, healer, or there's one that I have in my sketchbook still. It says, be the light, be in the light. And I did this painting called Mwanga, which means light in Swahili, and it's just this smiling child, and there's this beautiful light around it, and that, like, we just integrate those little things, and it starts, like, we don't all start with, like, these really detailed paintings. We just start somewhere, and that's all that it is. You just start somewhere.
Great advice for everything. Thank you. That's but particularly for the space of for those who may be starting this anew, the art exploration. I can see, and if you haven't looked at the art exhibit yet, I really highly recommend it. And if you just to anchor, will each of you say your names again so people can know your pieces that are up? I know yours right here.
I'm Melanie Farris.
Jag Wired art.
And it's fun for me right now because I can look over and see your two pieces next to each other, and there's other pieces in the show as well. And Melanie's is very geometric.
It's the black and white one up there.
And yes, stark in its colors. And Jag's is very embodied. And
it's the one on the right.
Much, depicting a lot of energy and motion and humans and beautiful connection with earth. And so it's really nice to see the range of art that can come from these deep spiritual altered states, psychedelic experiences. Another question that's coming to my mind as we're having this conversation is even like, what is psychedelic art? Well, you know, in some sense, it's an all art, a little psychedelic.
All art is.
Even the very realism is still taking us into an altered state of a framework of reality. So for people who are looking at your art and going to enjoy this afterwards, is there anything that you feel like they should be leaning towards as the viewer, or just do you prefer people to enter it with an open mind?
For me, it's just an open mind. Like, I have intentions going in when I paint the paintings. The piece that's next to Melanie's on the wall, it took me 3 years to paint that piece. It was constantly evolving and changing. I was doing it, just painting at live events everywhere, so there's like energy from these different events, people dancing, people like celebrating, transformation with the moth at the end was like the last part. I painted that at the fluffy cloud Burning Man thing. But I was seeing like the transformation of other people that were there for their first time being at a festival like that, or their first time experiencing something that was different from their everyday. And so I was like incorporating those things in there. And then I also did a float session. So I don't know if you're familiar with that, but you get in a deprivation tank. You're immersed in complete darkness. And for me, I was seeing all this color, even in this dark space. And then I saw these whales, and they were pushing me through the cosmos. And then my time was up. I was like, oh, I want to go back. But I was just incorporating all these different things. On the very top, it's hard to see from here, but I incorporated part of my culture, and it's Bathala is the symbol on the top. It's Babayin. It's a type of script in the Tagalogs in the Philippines. And Ba is the masculine, Tha is the in-between, and La is the feminine. So everything together. But yeah, you can just go into the painting however you want.
If I'm asking you to think about one thing when viewing my work, is what feels familiar to you? How do these lines, these connections feel familiar to you and your experience? I would like to add one thing that I haven't really talked about, is that I do add some little entities in there, and yes, they're geometric, so they're a little hidden, but I call them my little builders. of these realms and these labyrinths that I create. So maybe if you find those little Easter eggs in there, that'd be fun.
I love that.
Yeah, and on that note, when you look at those two pieces and you're seeing one very geometric and one very psychedelic and figurative, I'm always saying to my students at the end of the day, and beginner artists, we're really only creating 3 different large categories. And that's characters, environments, and abstract. So the one on the right, you have a character and environment mixed with the psychedelic abstraction. The one on the left, sacred geometry, is more abstract. It's symbolism. It's based off of basic shapes, squares, circles, triangles, and then elaborated on, right? So think about it in simple terms. If anyone out here wants to start creating, you're like, I don't know what to draw. Well, remember, characters, environments, abstract, whatever you're leaning towards. If you want to start drawing faces, well, get a mirror and start drawing your own face. I created 131 self-portraits in as many days. You really learn a lot about your own shit while you're looking at yourself.
Did you do that on an altered state?
Some were, and it gets really deep and dark and terrifying. And,
You're a brave man.
yeah, very existential, and yeah, and that's a beautiful way to do it. If you love animals, then that's what you draw. So the trick is you're going to create whatever you love. If you love raccoons, you're going to draw raccoons. You'll probably make a great living being a raccoon artist. Seriously, just find the niche and then get good at it, and then people are going to want to start to buy it, which is a whole other conversation. I'm always trying to separate the money from the love of doing it. You have to love doing it, and then maybe figure out a way to sell it. If you want to become rich being an artist, good luck. Try to find another profession, right? But at the end of the day, an artist who's very good at doing their artwork wants to figure out, well, how can I monetize this? How can I get paid every day to do this? And that's tricky, and it's different for every artist. And maybe that's another conversation, another question, another panel, some other time. We're just talking about the love of creation as it ties into the different types of medicines out there and the beauty and magic that can be born out of these experiences. So.
Yeah, when you're talking about the animals, I actually worked on a series for 3 years. There was 10 pieces in total, but it was all focused on animal totems and these different cultures and how they celebrated these different animals, how they were integrated into psychedelics and non-psychedelic spaces, into shamanistic practices and non-shamanistic practices. My name is Jag Wired, and it comes, I worked on that series because of my animal totem, which is the jaguar. And when I was really little, I used to keep dreaming about this big cat, and I was terrified of it. I thought it was just chasing me, made me terrified, and I would wake up just really afraid to go back to sleep. And the last time I dreamt about it, it pounced on me, and then I was just like, okay, never mind. And when I started getting back into my art and actually finding my purpose with what I was doing, with the intentions of my work, I started embodying that jaguar spirit and then understanding what the responsibility of that is, because it is tied with indigenous cultures, it is tied with a history as well, and is tied with transformation, which I think is important for anybody that's going through any healing or going through these psychedelic experiences, is that you're transformed. You're not the same person going in, coming out on the other side. And every piece of art that I've done, I'm different at the end of each piece, at the end of each journey, and I've learned something new that I didn't know before.
Beautiful. So I'm going to share a reflection of what's coming in for me, and then we'll open it up for a few questions. What I'm really hearing is, and I can't remember who said this first, and perhaps we don't know because it's been said many times, but psychedelics open doors in our mind to different realms of consciousness, into our own awareness, into spirituality. And what I'm hearing is, through the act of creation, through the act of art, you're finding a way to continually to connect with what's on the other side of the door and to bring it into this dream that we call being human. So really beautiful. I really appreciate everything that has been shared. And we have a little bit of time for questions. So who's got one? John, you've got a nice big voice, so just shout it out.
What I've noticed in my experiences with psychedelics is that I will oftentimes carry some of the energy of that into this realm. And depending on what it is, those effects will be more lingering than not. And the question for you in particular, Alex, is what do you notice in your experiences with this? You're talking about the flow state, but also I call it the unity state. It's where we feel very unified with everything. Have you noticed that growing more and more in your day-to-day non-plant-infused experiences?
Yeah. Well, it's the kind of the lingering effect of, say, the experience in your day-to-day, quote, sober life. And there is a lasting effect to, again, it depends on which medicine you experience, but there's this cumulative effect. I feel like I see the world very differently even when I'm not partaking, as it were. I'm just seeing things differently. And well, what does that mean? Is we all have eyes, and we're all looking at the same room, but we're all like perceiving differently. But something I'm always doing is I'll look at something and I'll be like, how would I draw that? How would I paint that, right? What would be the process to recreate this on a canvas or a piece of paper or a digital screen? And, you know, being involved in the medicine for so long has allowed me to integrate a lot of these different points of perception, and I don't know how to describe them. I don't know how to, I just know that they are somehow the residue of the medicine somehow, and then they all interact with each other. They all talk to each other, the different medicines of different languages. And you got to be careful which ones are talking, because some of them contradict each other. So, right? So that's where your own discernment and embodiment and integration of these experiences is crucial, right? Otherwise, this is how people go insane, right? They take too much. They think they're God, right? And then we're like, congratulations, and they're like, no, but you don't understand. Like, I'm a different kind of God. Like, that's total psychosis. So again, being able to delicately dissect the experience and then integrate it and create art out of it, whether it's writing or dance or painting or whatever. Drawing and painting is a small part of the creative process, right? Everything is art. The way we think is a style of art, right? When people tell me I'm not an artist, and I tell them, well, yeah, you are. You just don't know. We're all crafting something. We're all crafting our own stories, our own pasts, which actually changes the past. And so, yeah, we're all crafting our own stories. We're all artists, and the outcome is whatever we choose for it. So again, when I tell people that they're afraid of drawing, I say, well, get a pencil and just regular paper and just look up a picture of something you love. You love cats? Pull it up and just start copying it and ask, what is it you're seeing? What is it you're perceiving? And, you know, if you microdose a little, that cat's going to start to look a little wild and crazy, and you do that enough and you have your style, right? And then that comes about, and then you're known for this style, right? But it takes time. This all takes time. So patience is key.
All right. Question in the back, and there's a mic right by you.
Okay. Do y'all do trips where you're not focused on trying to produce art, and then trips where you are? And do you notice a difference in the two and how your mind works and what insights you come out of those?
Yes, I actually have different experiences. So it's almost like when I'm working without it, it's like the residue of it. It's like I've learned all these things, I have it with me, but it's like vaguely there. Like it's hard to explain. But the times that I am actively producing work, which is kind of difficult, really, it's just really more abstract, the times that I have. Or if I'm in a public setting, painting or something, I am just incorporating what's around me and what's coming through, like a chatter almost. And then those paintings seem to be like a little bit more intense than the paintings that I'm not visually experiencing anything or any psychedelics that I'm on. But those in particular, the times that I am, like the imagery is just more intense. There's a little bit more of a kind of dark and light undertone And it does scare people, actually. Like, these pieces are kind of scary to look at sometimes, but I'm like, this is the reality of our world. We both have that light and that dark. We can't avoid it. But we have to figure out a way to find how they can integrate with each other and find balance with ourselves individually, because we're not all going to be following those paths similarly. And hence, like, the paintings being all different and all expressed differently.
Personally, I have a really hard time painting or working while I'm, having these experiences, because everything I do is so precise that I'm not even going to try. I'm not even going to try that. But these visions definitely stick with me, and while I'm having these experiences, I still say that I'm working. Because I'm working through all of this problem solving that I have to do to get these images onto canvas. It's really fun. It's like a puzzle. But yeah, so this is the after effects of all of that for me.
I'm impressed how you get the lines, because I'll see cubes and stuff. I'm like, I still can't figure out how to paint that into anything. I always have an inner critic. I think that's just inevitable. It's just quieting it, and realizing, like, okay, I'm okay. Like, this is okay. And I used to have artist block a lot, and these experiences help me, because I'm like, oh, now I'm really curious about this, or I'm curious, like, I'll go down a rabbit hole of information, and it's like all that download translates into something. But I still deal with the imposter syndrome, and it's inevitable. It's there. It's part of our. There was a lady I met years ago. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she was like, "Those are ways to check ourselves. So we're not like, our ego's not all the way up here, or we're. But if we find a healthy balance with it, we're not like constantly criticizing ourselves for everything that we're doing, who we are, and what we're creating and what we're processing. But that's, it never goes away. I don't think the inner critic is just there. You just have to figure out how to deal with it.
I would say I've taken my inner critic and found a way to kind of make it my strength, because obviously I'm a bit of a perfectionist and I prefer a lot of order. And I follow a pretty strict working schedule every day, but I make it work to my advantage. And I've grown to really love that part of me. Whenever I used to fight it a lot. But yeah, I kind of say that I'm friends with my inner critic now. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, and speaking of psychedelics, they have a way of silencing or lowering the volume of the inner critic. Another great reason to microdose on just a health level, right? But certain medicines, especially LSD and ketamine for me at microdoses, they take the inner critic completely away. And it just leaves room for that. Again, this is where the patience of your craft comes into play, and all the practice you put into, say, draw an eye or draw a face, or a jaguar or something like that. Lowering the inner critic's voice, and then that's when you get into flow state, right? And so the psychedelics enhance the flow state, and then for me and for many people, flow state is the place we always want to be all the fucking time. We want to wake up in flow state and end the day in flow state, and whatever we can do to get back there is something that people are striving for, whether they realize it or not. These are the moments where everything happens the way, there's just the flow, right? Everything is going, right? Everything's working out, everything is flowing, right? But it takes a little bit to get into that state. So this is where psychedelics are almost like keys into the flow state. So
first, huh? Like sacrifice. They kind of do. They open up these realms, and it's like looking at them like, oh, that's interesting. What is behind that door? And I keep going further and further, and then I run across, I don't know what to call them, like entities or deities or these beings, and they're almost kind of like a guide through these spaces. And I'm always like grateful for them because I'm like, there's some intense visual sometimes, and they're like, oh, let's keep going this way. You're fine, keep going. I'm like, are you sure? And then there's times where I'll run into what I call the tricksters, because they're like, come on, let's go on this adventure. And it's like, I don't know what's going on. Like, time makes no sense. But those portals, yeah, they open up, and then it's hard to close them. I've had this conversation with my friends. I was like, once it's open, it's hard to close it. And it makes you realize, like, oh, what we are perceiving as our physical reality is not the only thing that exists out there.
Yeah, and on that same note, again, we are also, as individuals, we are portals as well, right? So you open up someone. I've been hearing for years that, yeah, that piece you created in 2018 changed my fucking life. And it's such an honor, and it's humbling for me to hear that. Again, this is where the imposter syndrome, like, who the fuck am I to make a painting that changed someone's life? And when a friend first told me that years ago, they're like, you've probably done work out there that have changed people's lives. And I thought, no, there's no fucking way. I don't have that power. Thanks for, blowing smoke up my ass. Like, I'm not that fucking guy. And then I started hearing about it and more. And now it's ever present in my life that something I created opened up someone else to their own transformation. So super powerful, and it never gets old, and it's incredibly humbling to hear that and to know we experience that power with what we create, and we all do, everyone in here, whatever we say, or whatever look we may give someone, we open up a portal in them for some kind of transformation. So it's so important that we're integrated in our own being, right, to be able to express to other people that's going to change their lives for better or for worse. So we have a huge responsibility. We're all artists, and we all have the ability to help someone craft their future, whether they're conscious of it or not. So.
Well, recently I've been cleaning out my studio. It's been a long work in progress, and I have way too many things. But there's a painting that I got reminded of. I was talking with Melanie earlier about it, and one of my very first, what would be called visionary pieces, I did for a show about PTSD awareness. And I grew up around military people and have a friend that went through an ayahuasca experience after nothing working. He was taking like 12 pills a day, essentially, to just be normal. But it helped to, like, what he called break the fog. And so I did this piece. I completely forgot that I had done this piece, but it was almost like, I know what direction I need to go with my work now, what purpose is with my work. And it's like every other piece I'll have like, oh, that makes sense, or I need to do that. Or this fits here, or this message fits with this thing, or I'm going through like just so much in my mind, and while I'm painting, it's like, oh, that looks good. I'm going to put this color, or I'm going to put this little earthworm here, or something. It's, but they come and go. It's like it's never always there, but when we do have it, it's like this tremendous feeling of excitement that, oh, this thing's going to look amazing. This painting's going to look amazing. This is going to resonate really well. Yeah, at least with me.
I'll say something on that. When I had, back to my Simpson days, okay, I'm a 20-year-old kid drawing The Simpsons, and I'm there a few years, and I'm like, this is just a stepping stone. Simpsons is not art. I'm going to Disney. Like, it's just a paycheck, right? And then 8 years later, I'm still on the show. You know, it's golden handcuffs and getting paid really well. I didn't follow my dreams to be a Simpsons animator. And then I see the work of Android Jones, the visionary artist. And here I am drawing Homer Simpson, and I see Android Jones. And this was, 20 years ago. His work was very different back then, but still, it was just high concept visionary artwork. And I'm like, there's no fucking way. Like, my little cartoons, and then I see this, and it's like, there's no way I can even ever think about getting there. And it was a haunting kind of aha moment, transformation. It's like either I start to learn whatever this thing is that he's doing, or I just stay on this path in creating. Simpsons to a lot of people is an amazing show, but like I knew I was here to do much bigger kind of art. And so it was a humbling, aha, terrifying moment. Like, where do I even start? This was like barely, the internet just fucking started becoming popular 20 years ago. Where do I find people like this? And now we can find people like this and have this amazing community experience. But sometimes we see things that we want to aspire to, and we're like, there's no fucking way I can do that. There's no way. They're special. Android was born with this thing, and I wasn't, right? And then we just leave it at that. So, fighting against that, and it comes from this inner passion of like, no, but I really want to do this thing. Like, I really fucking want to, and I have no skills. Like, okay, where do I start, right? You know the end goal, you know the thing you want to do, because you've seen it now. So then it becomes the painful process for me. It was like learning to walk again, learning how to do digital painting and do figurative art and get out of cartoons into more of a serious art. And that was 20 years ago, and I'm still kind of like finding my way into this new world. So again, patience and passion, right, together, and then that makes magic.
One more question.
You had spoken about how the medicine has helped you, how it ministers to you, how it teaches you. I'm curious, do you have a sense of what the psychedelic medicine thinks about
you?
The first thought that comes to mind for me is the messenger. The messenger.
I got a message actually it was like the year before last. We're out at Apache Pass, and there's like butterflies flying, the trees are all blowing, and of course mushrooms in my system, and the trees were like, healer, as they're blowing through, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I want that responsibility. I was like, you can take that back. But that was like a message there from them. I don't know how they judge me. They just kind of were like, let's go this way, or you need this, or, they always seem to be like showing me something that I need to see, or something that I need to experience or feel. And it's always like, I wouldn't say it's always like loving. It's like brutal and tough sometimes, but the times that it's like, this is just part of everything. You're a part of it all, so you have to kind of, all of it incorporates everything, the good, the bad, the in-between, and they're just showing me all those facets, and like, learn, teach, I'm teaching you, learn these things.
Yeah, and on that note, again, coming to these medicines with some kind of humility, right? I'm still processing my Bufo experience from 3 years ago. And for me, it was like, being swallowed and digested by God, right? It was a terrifying experience. Yeah. And then eventually you go, and then again, they teach us, they can teach us humility. But when they don't, we have to be careful. Like Jung said, beware of unearned wisdom. He was speaking to psychedelics. Like, don't think that just because you've unlocked this portal through this medicine that you took, you have the right to claim ownership to what you experience. And I don't know if we're going to have time to get into AI, but this gets right into the whole AI thing. Maybe that's a whole different panel. Don't get me started on AI. Right? So
3 hours later.
Humility. Yeah, they teach us humility, or they can, absolutely, and they teach us how to play also.
Any final words before burning things to share as the messengers, the vessels, the friends, the healers, the creators?
Thank you for being here, and thank you for listening to us.
Same. Thank you for lending us your ear and your time. I know you all could be doing so much more than coming and listening to us speak, but I do appreciate you all coming and asking us questions and making us think too. The only thing I could say from this is I hope you can share with others, your own journey. Like, it doesn't have to be ours. Like, we're just sharing a part of our journey. But just sharing your own so other people can experience what you're going through, whether it's that healing journey or the visual journey or whatever it may be, to kind of just open a doorway or open that pathway for others to kind of see, because there's still a lot that is seen as negative in the psychedelic spaces. I mean, it's changed so much just within the past 10 years, but I know there's so much more conversation to be had.
Yeah, and on that note, if anyone's curious about, okay, where do I start with art, or I want to get back into art, and it's just, again, as simple as you got to get quiet, right? You got to get back to what you love, not what other people have loved for you. This is where the should monster comes in. It's like, you should do this because dad said this, or mom said this, or your grade school teacher said you should do this. No, you got to get quiet, and that voice will come to you. And just as we are all unique beings, we all have a unique fingerprint, that it's its own unique labyrinth, it's its own unique maze, and we all have that message to share. So getting quiet, getting still, and seeking out community like this. Thank you all for being here. This has been amazing, and thank you, Mary, for having us. We'll do this all
pleasure.
Day long.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Yeah.
And some of the things that we talked about, I think, invite you guys back, invite all of you back, opening June 7th, and it'll be up through the 16th, I believe. There's definitely some peyote-inspired art, some ayahuasca-inspired art, other plants, other plant medicines from communities and traditions that have relationships with those activators that go on for millennia. So some really beautiful things being shown up there, as well as some Kogi Colombian crafts as well. So I know Caitlin's going to say a few things before we get to wander our way through this beautiful gallery, and make sure you take note of both Melanie and Jag's work, and especially if you couldn't see them as we were talking about them, make sure you get to note those.
While you're checking out the exhibit, please stick around and look at everything, but I also encourage you to go through the stairwell. There's a little curtain in this back room. There's a bunch of colorful lights, and I've got a little optical illusion installation in there. So highly encourage y'all to check it out. It's really fun.
Right on. And I just wanted to add one thing. All these guys are on Instagram. So if you are on Instagram and you want to follow them, we've tagged them on our Instagram, PsyTexas, but just really cool art to check out and support them. That's one way to support them. A few things. I just wanted to, first of all, thank you all for being here. Let's give everyone a round of applause. I just also want to thank our volunteers for being here tonight: Alex, Gil, Kai, Rebecca, Simon. I think that's everybody. And just thank you for Artist Co. for hosting us tonight. Really appreciate that. We have a little raffle that we're going to do for some t-shirts and some mugs. And after that, you're welcome to hang out for another hour and a half until we close tonight, and just mingle, connect with people. If there's someone here that you see, my encouragement is to find one person you haven't talked to and introduce yourself, even if you came with friends, just to go up to some random person and introduce yourself. So that's that. And then I do have to put all these chairs back into my Camry, so if anyone is staying on the later side and wants to help me, I'd be psyched. Okay, so we have 4 mugs. Ashley S., are you here? All right, you won a mug. Yeah. Katie K. Yeah. I'm trying to do this. Heather. Nice. Ronnie Landis.
Yeah, right.
All right, Ronnie. Okay, you guys have mugs, and then we've got 2 T-shirts. Matthew Burns. All right, on. Come find me afterward, you guys. And Jake Charles. Right on. All right. Well, thank you guys again for being here. Please stick around again. Mushroom Conference next weekend, all-day event. June 23rd, Integration Circle. June 17th, Animal Venom Sacred Medicine talk will be really rad. So thank you guys for coming, and yeah, let's hang out.
Thank you.
Oh, and do you want to speak at all? Good? Okay.